Hi, welcome. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. And today we are interviewing the Assistant Superintendent of Administration and Innovation from the West Bloomfield School District, named Miss Johanna Mracna. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. How are you, Max?
You're welcome. I'm doing great. What is your schedule like?
My work schedule. I would say that my work schedule is unpredictable. Um, I work early in the morning, often till late at night, but my meetings are different every day. The only thing that I can predict with 100% accuracy are when the board meetings are. So those happen twice a month on Mondays, and those I can always count on. But other than that, my work schedule is sort of unpredictable, other than it's always busy.
What are your office hours? Like, what time do you go in the central office and what time do you leave or stop working at?
Well, um, I usually get to the office between 7:45 and 8 in the morning. And I leave the office really anytime between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m., depending on the day.
Do you ever have anxiety while or before you are making a decision?
No, I wouldn't say I have anxiety, but what I do try to do before I make a decision is make sure that I really have all of the data so that I can be sure that the decision is a good decision for kids. And so that makes me feel more confident in my decisions to make sure that I have all of the data ahead of time.
And is that how you deal with your anxiety?
I'm not really a super anxious person, just in general, so that's thankfully for me not really one of my struggles.
But if you do have anxiety, how do you deal with it?
Sometimes when I feel a little anxious, for me, the best thing to do is prepare and make sure that I have everything in line and organized and ready to go, so that I don't have to be anxious about it.
What
That's
is
a great
your,
question.
thank you. What is your advice to others dealing with anxiety?
Um, I think that probably what I would say is to find strategies that work for them, and try to see if they can anticipate when they might be anxious ahead of time so that they can prepare and use some of those strategies.
What is the easiest thing to make a decision on?
The easiest thing to make a decision on, well, I think sometimes it's really clear who should be hired for a position. So sometimes those, like if you find a really great teacher, and you just know, that's an example of a decision that the teacher makes it easy for a principal, for example, to hire them. Um, I think easy decisions are sometimes perhaps coming up with a meeting schedule. Those types of things are usually pretty straightforward.
What is the hardest thing to make a decision on?
Well, I don't know if it's hardest or most important, but when you are tasked with being in charge of educational outcomes for students, it is imperative that every decision must be made by thinking to yourself, is this the best decision for kids? And sometimes what's best for kids is really unpopular with adults. And sometimes what's best for kids is hard to um, organize, like it might be very complicated. So sometimes those are hard decisions to make, but it's always led me in the right direction to think to myself, is this what's best for kids?
What's your favorite thing to make a decision on?
Um, my favorite thing, I don't know if I have a favorite thing. I think there's so many decisions every day about different things that I don't think I have a favorite, but it does feel great to make a decision knowing that I did all of my research and that I really tried my hardest to make sure that the decision is a really great one.
What are some of the things you have to make a decision on or your roles as Assistant Superintendent of Administration and Innovation?
Sure. So we make decisions at the level in the organization about the strategic plan and how we're going to make that vision of the board come to life. So the strategic plan and the mission and the vision of the district is really what guides all of our work. And our goal is to make sure that what the board put into those documents is what comes to fruition in the district for kids, for staff, and for the community. So those are really what the decisions are, and they can be a whole bunch of different areas in the school system, but that's always what is guiding the decisions.
And then that's your roles just to make sure everything aligns.
Right. So the role has several different components to it. And I can give you a couple examples. So of things, of projects that I've worked on this year. So one example of something that I was overseeing and helping with this year was changing the way that our transcript process works in the district for high school transcripts. And there's a database that stores all of that information. And we worked with a really big team with great administrators from our buildings and our pupil accounting office, in my office. And we were able to redesign how that process works so that it will be better for students as they head forward. So that's an example of one of the things. And it's probably not something that students would think about, but it's those types of things are really important to make sure that that we have great data and that it goes out quickly and that we can get it out quicker to students than we were able to before. So that's an example.
What is your least favorite thing to make a decision on?
Well, I don't know that I have a least favorite, but probably just some of the mundane things. Sometimes you get questions about, what brand of paper should we be getting or something that's not super interesting. But those are, there's still decisions that need to be made, and ultimately they do impact the district overall. So we have to consider cost and quality and availability and how quickly it can be delivered and all of those types of things. So even the decisions that seem a little uninteresting actually do impact outcomes for our schools.
Who is your favorite person to work with?
In school, well, my favorite people to work with are kids. I love working with kids. I like being around kids. I like seeing kids learning. I was a teacher for a really, really long time. So always it's the best when there are things where I can be around kids.
What is your assistant superintendent history?
So I'm an assistant superintendent in this district, and I was an assistant superintendent in a different district prior to this. And I was also a high school principal, and I taught for a really long time. I taught high school kids. And so I've been in education a long time.
What is your favorite place to be an assistant superintendent at?
Well, I love my job right now. I love West Bloomfield. I think it's a great community. I think the students are wonderful, the parents are wonderful, the teachers are wonderful, the community is wonderful. So even though I'm new to the community, I'm really enjoying my time.
What's your favorite thing about your job?
Well, I think there's nothing better than working in education. Kids are the future of the world, and it's really a privilege to be able to work in a position where we can influence what happens and prepare students to be their best selves down the road.
What do you have in plans to make West Bloomfield School District better?
Well, I think that we have a really strong team. We have great administrators, we have great teachers, we have great paraprofessionals, great bus drivers, great staff in our kitchens. And I think when you work as a team to make something better, it really requires input. So I think we continue to gather data, we continue to look for areas of improvement, and some of the ways that we figure out where to make that improvement is from surveys. And you've probably taken some of those surveys before. So we look at those surveys and then by department and sometimes as a whole group, we come up with ideas for how to make those surveys better the next time around. Because that gives us data about perhaps what people are looking for that could change.
So the panorama,
Yeah, for example, Panorama is a good source of data. Exactly.
and I think those were the only other ones other than Google Form input that we took. But
Yeah, those are for
more.
students, and we have some other ones for staff.
What do you do for fun?
Oh, well, I love to ski, so I ski in the winter. I love to travel, so I try to travel as much as I can with my family. I love swimming, so I swim in the summer. But really, my favorite season is winter. I love it when it's cold. I love it when there's snow. I love being outside in the crisp air. I love skiing. So that's why Michigan's a good place for me because there's a nice long winter.
What makes you smile outside of school?
My kids, my husband, my family. I'm really lucky to have a really great family who supports me, and I just think they're the best. So I'm lucky for that.
When did you start becoming a assistant superintendent?
This 2019 or 2020 maybe. I would have said not exactly 2020, must have been 2020,
So
right around the time of the pandemic.
what are other things you've done in your career?
Well, I've done a lot of presenting at different levels. I used to present all the time when I was a teacher on different teaching strategies, and I loved doing that. I present some now as well. Um, Other things that I've done in my career, I've always been kid focused, so everything that I do is always um, I've tried to make sure that everything that I do impacts student outcomes positively. And I think that that is always what drives my practice, no matter what position I'm in, is making sure that whatever we're doing, it's in the best interest of students and make sure that we have outcomes for students that are consistently improving and that we're paying attention to students' needs. And, things have changed a lot since I first started in education. So there's always uh, a focus on what's coming up next and what kinds of things are changing. And I'll give you an example. When I first started in education, people weren't really using anything other than paper grade books, for example. So we would all keep our grades in these paper books and add them up at the end of each week and give a paper slip to students. And that's really different than how it is now. So that's important for educators to evolve with the times and make sure that they're staying on top of new technology and making sure that that's available for students in schools. So that's a big component of the job as well.
What are you working on right now?
Well, right now we're working on plans for the fall, and we'll spend the summer getting ready for the fall, making sure that we have our plans in place for professional development, for student welcome backs, that our administrators have everything that they need, that all the training in the district is done. And so that's what all of the central office team works on throughout the summer, is getting ready for the next year.
When is the official start date of the school year? I know that was decided at yesterday's board meeting, I believe.
Yes, the official start date was decided at yesterday's board meeting, and it will be August 28th. That'll be the first day of school.
And when do you know when the calendar will be out?
It will be out soon, but I do not know the day that it will be out.
Okay. What is your education?
Well, I have a bachelor's degree. I went to University of Michigan in Ann Arbor for that, and my bachelor's degree is in biology and chemistry and classical archaeology. And then I have a master's degree And I also have an ed specialist. And so all of those are education related. Um, so I think they prepared me to work in schools.
What are your hobbies?
Well, my hobbies are sort of similar to what I like to do with my free time. I consider skiing to be a hobby. I read a lot. I travel quite a bit when I can. Um, I swim pretty regularly in the summer. Um, I have a dog, and so I like to walk my dog every day if I can. Sometimes I'm busy at work, so someone else in my family walks him, but I try to walk him pretty regularly. And I have two kids who I love to spend time with, and we do all kinds of fun stuff together. Um, and my husband as well. So I like to spend time with him and hang out. I love watching movies. I have lots of hobbies.
What kind of dog?
Well, he's kind of a sad dog. He's a hound, and we adopted him, and he was abused, and he's having a little bit of trouble getting comfortable in our house, even though we've only almost had him a year. He's still pretty skittish, but he's getting better and better. So over time, with enough love, hopefully he'll come out of his shell a little bit more.
Hopefully.
Yes, his name's
What
Lincoln.
what is your favorite thing to do on the weekends?
My favorite thing to do on the weekends is hang out with my family.
And the final question I have is what was it like to help pass out the Teacher and Support Person of the Year awards?
Well, that's one of the greatest things in a district is to have staff that's so dedicated. We have staff members who spent their whole career with West Bloomfield School District, and they deserve so much recognition because they've really put their heart and soul into providing opportunities for kids. And so when you get a chance to recognize people for that kind of commitment and that kind of input and that kind of longevity in their career, it's a really great feeling, and they really deserve it. It's one of the greatest careers you can have is in education, and to have people who have done such a great job is really awesome.
Did the district just start doing the awards or have they done them for a while?
Um, so I think the way they were done this year was a little different, but there have been other types of ways that they've done milestone awards in the past. I'm not sure exactly how that operated because I wasn't here, but I do know that this is not the first time.
And that is all my questions that I have in this interview. I would like to thank you for joining, and I would also like to thank you for bearing with me as we found a day to work.
Yes, thank you for having me, Max. It was a
You're
busy
welcome.
week, but we found a good
Yeah,
time.
I had a lot of fun.
Me too.
Alrighty, I will see you later.
All right, talk to you
All right,
soon.
talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye.